Continuing on with the Clone Wars and the Trandoshan Hunters arc, I hopped on over to the next and final episode of this arc, Season 3, Episode 22, Wookiee Hunt. So as we know from the last episode, Ahsoka has been captured by the Trandoshan big game hunters, who seem to go around the galaxy capturing different alien species and hunting them for sport in their own little most dangerous game, Hunger Games Running Man game. The episode picks up right where the last one left off. Khalifa is dead, Ahsoka is immediately on the run. She's able to hide and throw the Trandoshans off her track. This scene was subtle, but I loved it. I mean, it's been done a ton of times in other movies and shows, right? Where we see the main character behind the enemy, and the enemy is kind of feels something over their shoulder. And when the enemy turns around, our main character is gone. It's cliche as hell, but I always like it. So Ahsoka is able to meet back up with the younglings that have been on this moon for a while. Ahsoka comes up with a plan. Every few days, the Trandoshans land a drop ship on the surface and unload new prisoners. What's the plan? Well, the plan is to attack that drop ship head on. So they go and attack the drop ship. It ends up being 2 Trandoshans versus 3 Jedi. Ultimately, the Jedi take over the ship, but in the process, they destroy the ship. So far, I have to say, I like the first episode way more. That being said, I'm only like 6 minutes into this episode, but the first episode in this arc was such a unique little episode in the show. That newness factor definitely boosted my enjoyment of it. I'm not sure if this episode will even remotely compare. It's like, it's like the first installment of a new trilogy, right? Sometimes that's the best. It has the best ideas, it has the newest ideas, it is unique, and then the following films, So the Trandoshan ship that was destroyed had a bunch of prisoners on board, and as Ahsoka and the younglings walk toward the wreckage, we hear a grunt, a growl, a greeting, and out walks Chewbacca. He tells the group that his home planet Kashyyyk is close by, and if they get their hands on some electronic equipment in the downed ship, Chewbacca might be able to fashion a makeshift transmitter, and they might be able to call for help. Alright, you all know I love Chewbacca, who doesn't? It goes without saying, and you guys also know how I feel about making the universe feel small by constantly reintroducing characters we're already familiar with, so you're probably thinking that I hated Chewbacca being in this episode. That's not necessarily the case. When I saw Chewie, I thought to myself, wait, is this the first time I've seen Chewbacca in this show? And after looking it up, because I have a shitty memory, it turns out this is the only episode of the Clone Wars where Chewbacca shows up. For whatever reason, that surprised me. With Chewie's presence in Revenge of the Sith, I would have thought they'd have a whole bunch of Chewbacca episodes leading into the movie in the Clone Wars. So I appreciate them having some restraint and not awkwardly having a bunch of Chewie episodes for the sake of having a bunch of Chewie episodes. So they go to the wreckage to find the parts that Chewbacca needs. There's a sniper, there's a tussle, the crew takes a Trandoshan prisoner, and Chewie is able to make a transmitter out of the parts he gathered. The crew decides to use the prisoner as bait. They use the old mind trick to have him call for a speeder shows up, and they take the speeder. And at the same time that this happens, we cut to the transmitter linking up with Kashyyyk without Ahsoka and the crew knowing that that just happened. So if I had to guess, they'll be in a tough spot. They'll be almost captured or something, maybe captured or surrounded. And in the nick of time, a bunch of Wookiees will swoop in to save the day. That's my guess. And if I was a betting man, I would put all my chips on that square. So Ahsoka and crew use the speeder to get to the Trandoshan base. There's a big fight, and ultimately our heroes are captured. And right on cue, Wookiees do actually swoop in to save the day. There's a part where one of the Trandoshans is hit with the blaster fire and is dead and gone, and his buddy leans over to check on him, and then one of the Jedi younglings moves the piece of cover that they were hiding behind, and then the Trandoshan is completely exposed and Chewie just easily blasts him. This reminded me of the Raiders of the Lost Ark scene where the big guy is swinging the sword like crazy and we're expecting some giant fight hand-to-hand combat scene, and Indiana Jones just pulls out his revolver and shoots him. I liked it, a little silly moment in the midst of the action. So Ahsoka and the head honcho Trandoshan get into a fight. Ahsoka pushes him off a balcony, killing him. At the end of the episode, Ahsoka and Anakin are reunited, and there's a really great moment between the two of them. Anakin is apologizing, and Ahsoka basically tells him to stop, and she thanks him for his training and guidance. She says the training and guidance that Anakin has given her is the only reason that allowed her to survive, and that's what allowed her to lead others as well. Overall, the episode was hit or miss for me. In this 2-episode arc, I without a doubt preferred the first one. Wookiee Hunt this episode kind of felt like a missed opportunity to purely show Ahsoka's ingenuity, cleverness, leadership, and smarts during sticky situations. Instead of showing us that, we were given Chewbacca saving the day. Yeah, it just kind of felt like a missed opportunity to give us a little bit more Ahsoka character development. But I'm sure we'll have plenty of those moments moving forward in the rest of the show. I still have a lot of episodes to watch. Overall, the arc was 50-50 for me. I loved the first episode for being unique and bringing something interesting and different to the show. But this episode, I could take it or leave it. HelloGreedo, out.